Hey there everybody, welcome back to ADHD Hobbies, and this time for some No Man's Sky. In this episode, I'm going to drop down the 16 best tips I could come up with that will get you started in the game. I tried to put these in some sort of order and not give any spoilers or anything, so hold on and let's get started. Odds are when you first start the game, they're going to throw in a nasty planet like this and tell you to stay alive, but what do? Tip number 1, sodium and oxygen. There's going to be a lot of things the game's asking you to do, a lot of tips, a lot of pop-ups, things dealing with your scanners. And if you're lucky enough, on some planets you can take the time to do it. And a lot of planets, they can be hostile. You can see these that the armor's already wearing down and the protections are wearing down. The sodium keeps the shields up, the oxygen keeps your health up. So while you're trying to figure out what's going on, which way is up, which way is down, and exactly what you're doing in the game, gathering these two will get you a long way. A good source of oxygen is also the hostile plants. They don't really point out that they're oxygen. They don't show up when you use your scanner to show you that they're oxygen, but they're easy to see from a long way off before you get your scanner, and you can use your mining tool to zap them and get oxygen pretty quick. And again, that's just your health. It doesn't help your shield. That's what the sodium's for, so definitely keep an eye out for the glowing yellow little flowers for that. Step 2, going to get around navigation. Once you get your scanner, use it. You're going to see the little icons pop up for all the elements and oxygen and things floating around, and you'll find little patches like this are invaluable. You can't go wrong with it. And scan often. You're going to see things other than minerals and stuff. There's so many things on these planets that you can find, and you're going to miss them. And also it's useful for a tip later on in this, so make sure you scan. The next part of this tip is getting around. The melee jetpack, there you melee and then you jetpack, but if you put them together, melee then jetpack, boom! You go flying. It is the best way to get around. It works with all jetpacks and everything. I highly recommend mastering it. It will save you a headache getting around these places. Tip number 3, mining efficiently. Wonder why I'm getting in a ship? Hey, we've done all the stuff. Your ship is a crazy good mining tool and only gets better as you upgrade it. You can fly around, explore the planet, and shoot at the ground. And as you break things and destroy stuff, it gets added to your inventory. So you can find big pockets of stuff and just fly around, explore, and mine all at the same time without having to worry about the hazards of the planet. The next part of this mining tip involves your terrain manipulator. You're going to be tempted to blow big holes in it like this, but you're not going to get very much as far as resources go. You're going to need to bring that radius down to a smaller bubble, and then farm. You can do this on the computer by using the letters R and T. I believe it's your left and right trigger on the controller. But doing this is the difference between getting a few hundred per deposit or getting 1,000 or even a couple of thousand out of the deposit. If you don't need to do this, you don't need to do it all the time. I get it, small amounts sometimes, but if you're really trying to stock up and get what you need, this is the absolute way to go about it. Step number 4. Explore your starting planet. There is so much to see. I know you can get anxious and want to take to the stars. The game is massive. But if you take the time and just slow down on your starting planet, visit some interests like these knowledge stones, visit some POIs, some bases, there are some absolutely amazing and breathtaking things that you can take a look at and see in this game. And you're going to miss them all if you don't just stop and look. It's also a good way to practice your skills. Get used to combat, get used to flying around, get used to figure out what you need to do to survive and progress in the game. Once you get a good hang of that and you feel like you've flown around, you've seen all the POIs that the place has to offer, take to the stars. And to tip number 5, we're going to work on our network settings. Easy enough to get over to, but they'll save you a big headache. There's multiplayer, PvP, all kinds of things in this game, and making sure your settings are the way you want them to be will save you. I turn on multiplayer, but I turn off PvP. It's nice to see other players in the anomaly and stuff and interact with them if I need to, but I also make sure to turn off some of the other things like base building and who I show my ship marker to and things like that. There's a lot of control here. I highly recommend looking at it. And step number 6, space stations. Nearly every single system has one. There are exceptions, some don't, some have different ones. I'll let you figure that out. But you can't pass them up. I recommend every time you step into a system that a space station is the first place you go. Once you get there, you're going to have quite a few options presented to you. You don't need all of them, but there are a few of them that are really important. The first thing I like to check are guns. Every single space station has different guns, and they range from all kinds of styles, so it's a great place to stop. There's also different vendors that sell upgrades for your guns, ships, weapons, armors, much like this guy here. All you gotta do is go talk to them and then take a look at what you have or what they have available and what you may want to buy. There's tons of options and I recommend reading through them. The big one is the exosuit upgrade. Every space station has one exosuit upgrade that you can use. So every time you stop, if you can afford it, I recommend getting it. Outside of that, there's just a couple of other things. You have a place where you can sell your items here, and a teleporter for getting around later when you unlock that. Alright, you left your planet, you've seen your first space station. Now what? Tip number 7, explore your system. You're going to find things like this that are great for resources. In this situation, all you have to do is shoot the containers, keep an eye out for them, lots of gold. But you're going to find lots of things just floating out in space like this. You're also going to discover some crazy planets, things that you wouldn't have even imagined. Trust me on this, I still get surprised. Going to learn your limits. You're going to find extreme planets like this, maybe more extreme than your starter planet, but you're going to learn your limits of what you can do, what your armor can do. You're going to come across different animals, obstacles, sentinels. It's just such a good practice ground, a good place to see what you can do and practice everything before you really shoot out to the stars and get into big trouble. Or you could luck out like this where you land and have a perfect S-class ship land next to you and not be able to afford it. Hard knocks, I guess. The game has a cruel sense of humor as well. But just a quick throw in, if you do come across these exotics like this, always buy one. Some of the best ships in the game. We're going to move on real quick to tip number 8, and it is another mining tip. Except for this time, we're in outer space. I mean, come on, that's awesome, right? Mining the asteroids in outer space, it'll get you so much. It'll save you so much mining down on the planets. But the biggest thing about it is you'll never have to worry about fuel again. Alright, tip number 9, star map. There is absolutely no reason to keep your jumps close to each other. You got so many stars. I think they say they're up in the quintillions somewhere. But there's just so much to explore, no reason to keep it as a tight knit. I try to jump as far as I can. This ship pushes about 1,000 light years. You'll learn a lot more things. Different systems have a lot of things going on for them. There's some cool stuff you'll figure out there. But the big takeaway here is make big jumps. Explore. Don't worry about keeping it close. There's so much out there. Just go. It might take you a few jumps, but tip number 10. Use base computers. Claim lots of bases. You're going to find these really awesome planets that have, bubbles and chickens. But you're going to want to come back to it. And as long as there's a base computer there, you can use the teleports as you unlock them in the space stations and stuff, and you can always come back here. The base computers are also really easy to make. They only take a few chromatic metal. But once you get them placed, all you have to do is find a teleport like this. You get a nice list, narrow it down to your bases, see where everything is. I recommend giving it a name or a picture that lets you remember what it is, because at some point you'll have a bunch of them. I go through here and delete them over time as I find other bases that I like more. But the takeaway, build lots of base computers, makes you easy to navigate around the system without having to use your ship. You can just teleport. And it's time for tip number 11. Let's power up those space guns. You got your S-class gun, you got your S-class ship, and you have all your S-class tech. But did you know that putting tech of the same type next to each other would give it an adjacency bonus? This will make your gun shoot harder, make you jump further, make you move faster. It's simply the way to go. You may also want to use 2 different mining tools, have one for damage and one for mining to maximize these benefits. Tip number 12, sentinels. These guys are everywhere. Doesn't matter what system you go to, odds are you're going to find them on a planet, you're going to find them in space, you're just going to find them everywhere. They like to mess things up. If you're feeling feisty, you can pick a big fight with them. It's going to take a minute. You're going to have to go through 5 waves, and each wave will get increasingly more difficult. The robots, the sentinels are going to get bigger, they're going to get meaner, and a lot more difficult. But if you do what you do and you take out the big walker and get the brain at the end of it, you're going to get lucky, and the game's going to point you to a place that you can go to shut the sentinels down. While you might find the spot on the planet you're currently on, odds are you're going to have to go someplace else in the system. Once you get there, just run up to one of the sentinel pillars, Click on it, check for the gun. There's a really good chance of having a S-class exotic there. But after that, we're looking for the shutdown sentinel forces. And this will shut them down for a little while across the entire system. Tip number 13. Time to get rich. Sorta. We're going to work on nanites. The game alludes to them a few places, talks about them, but there's no real structure or real direction on how to make lots of them. To do that, just these guys right here. There's a few things you're going to get out of them, like the residual goop. Start collecting it. But after you get enough of this stuff, we're going to refine it. We'll start with the residual goop. It's the bottom of it. That turns into visceral fluids. Once you get, or viscous fluid, you grab that, turn it into some living slime. Living slime turns into runaway mold, and boom! Runaway mold equals nanite clusters. Easy. But not the funnest. If you're lucky, you'll eventually find these curious deposits, which are runaway mold on other planets, and you can set up a station. Just build a refiner next to it, farm these bad boys, and throw them in there. They replenish, so you can come back at any time to redo it whenever you're ready. And the final way to get nanites is through discoveries. Remember all that scanning I told you to do, landing on planets and stuff? This is where it pays off. Go to your discoveries page, click the little arrow, and watch the nanites pour in. You can't go wrong with it. Make sure to check back on this often. Tip number 14. Now it's time to get rich. For real. It's a few different ways. One of the things we're looking for are these scanner modules right here. It doesn't matter what grade it is. Work up to S, but any of them will work to get you rolling. And you can see here they have 4 stats, and look at the money that you get from that. Rewards up by 6,000%, 7,000%. This is what that looks like. Go find a planet. Boom. 186,000 just for that scan. 116. But they get bigger. You'll find some guys like this one here. 348,000 just for a scan. But you want to make more, you say? I got you, fam. And it comes in the form of giant automated factory farm thing. You'll eventually unlock the ability to mine, and once you do that, if you take the time and just set up some of these mines, focus on it, and get enough storage containers set up, you can harvest a massive amount of material. And that's fantastic because that means you can return, grab the material, go sell it, and then come back and reload. A farm like this can be worth tens or even hundreds of millions of units, and you can't go wrong with it. Tip number 15, and possibly one of the coolest things the game has to offer, freighters. When you come into a system like this and you see a big battle going on, you save the freighter, you get it for free. Your first freighter is the only free one that you get, so be careful. But if you come across and you save a freighter and you don't like it, you don't want it, don't take it. Wait for the next freighter battle and try to get one that you can get your hands on. These battles like this with the dreadnoughts are even more rare, so if you can manage to play Star Wars and do some trench fighting, you can actually get yourself a dreadnought, which is really nice. As soon as you get out, you can scan the deck like that. This one looks like an A class. I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go all the way up here. We'll talk to the captain real quick. And boom, sees the dreadnought. I now have a free dreadnought. I did not have to pay for it. I'm just going to claim it. If you already have another freighter, you got to make sure to transfer your build over, all the stuff in the deck that you've worked on. So make sure you do that. You don't want to lose that information, especially if you've been using your freighter as a home away from home and have put a lot of work into it. And last but not least, the final tip 16, the anomaly. If you haven't been here, you will be. There's no getting around it. I love this place. It's a sanctuary that you can get to. You can come check out the cool vehicles or ships, whatever you want to call them. But there's also so much more to do here. One of the first things we want to take a look at is the spot right here in the center. You can't miss it. It's the Nexus. The Nexus is central to gaining missions. Once you've done everything you can do, you can come here for missions. But the big ones we're after are these right here, the Quicksilver ones. Quicksilver is a unique currency that you only get from the Nexus, and you can only spend here. And if you're a base builder like customization, this is where it's all at. You can get components for your exocraft, for bases, for your jetpacks, for your ships, all kinds of cool cosmetics to just make everything look awesome, even down to gear. We're going to navigate up this way to just a couple more things. The base you can explore on your own, but there are a couple places I really want to emphasize. This central hub here is another place you're going to spend a lot of nanites, a lot of your salvage data, and things to upgrade. I recommend going to each of these vendors and seeing what they really have to offer. There's also a suit upgrade you can get from the armor there, much like you can in the space stations, and you can do it once per system as well. The last thing I'd like to show is that the space station has a portal, even though it is kind of tucked away. But you can use it like any other portal, except this one also has community bases you can go to. So pick one and go. I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with me on this video. It's been a blast. This was my first No Man's Sky video, and I hope you liked it, and I hope it went well. Until next time and next adventure, you have a good day.